4 24-hour races in the world, this is the Willhire 24-hour race at Snetterton for saloons and sports cars. Let's go and meet the drivers. First, Colin Blur with the Colt Starion. How many times has he competed here? And does he rate his chances?
Well, this is our fourth, in fact. Yes, we have got great hopes. I mean, the first two races we had a disappointment, the first one being the very worst. We only ran for 6 hours and then we were taken out by a fuel pump problem. The following year we ran for, I think it was about 18 hours, and then we had an engine blow. Last year with the Porsche, which was super reliable apart from one drive shaft failure, which was had happened about 6 hours into the race when we were leading. And so, I mean, I felt then we had a very good chance of winning that race. Now this year I feel that we've got one of the quickest cars. We've done everything we can to try and make sure it stays reliable. So yes, we've got very high hopes. I mean, there's only two of us in the car. There's only Tiff and myself. But we have a good chance, I'm sure. Hope so.
That's the $64,000 question, reliability with turbocharger. Think it's going to go? That's
got to be the big question, isn't it? I mean, that's the only thing that concerns me. I mean, the car obviously does have the capability of going very quickly, but the reliability thing, it's never done a 24-hour race before. We just don't know.
Well, we're about to find out, Colin, and we look forward to the next 24 hours.
Let's hope we're still there at the end.
Well, the man who, in fact, has a tremendous record as far as the 24-hour Willhire is concerned has to be Pete Hall, and this time it's a Rover, Pete.
It's a Rover, and I think it's probably the best car we've ever run so far.
You really do? You think it's going to be there for the whole of the 24 hours?
Well, as far as endurance goes, there's a little bit of a question mark, but so far it hasn't exhibited any problems at all, and we're extremely confident.
Prepared by Andy Rouse, you've also got Stephen Soper in the team this year.
Yes, we're very pleased to have got Steve. Fortunately, he's no other commitments this weekend, and I think he's so far thoroughly enjoying himself.
Stops him for driving for anybody else, doesn't it?
That's right, it does.
As far as these two in the same team, do you think they're sort of going to be interested in each other's lap times or interested in preserving the car? Who's going to keep order, you?
I don't think it's necessary. They're both highly proficient professionals, and they know the name of the game, and the whole team is working extremely well together.
Well, let's hope it's working together at the end of the 24 hours. Pete, thank you very much. Well, it's said that any good motor trader always appears in dark glasses, and Jerry Marshall's got his on and his ratting hat as well, but obviously looking forward to some serious driving for 24 hours with Roger Clark. Jerry, what do you reckon to the chances?
Well, it's a new ratting hat, so it must go very well today. My wife bought it for me as a birthday present last November, so it's got to be good chances.
You've enjoyed this race hugely, I know, over the years, but success really has eluded you. What about this year?
Well, I keep getting second, which is a little bit boring, but you know, we'll see this year. I'd rather not say anything, but we've got a super car. It's a very reliable car. It's a very fast opposition, but you know, we'll try.
What about your co-driver?
Well, I've got a couple of them actually. I've got a sort of an old man, young Roger Clark, and David Sears and Sean Walker. Bit of a cross section of the motor racing scene. They're all good lads. Roger surprised me just now in saying he'd never done an endurance race before, which surprised me because we did the TT together in 1981, but that really is only a 4-hour race, so I suppose that's not an endurance event. I don't know, you know, it's going to be a good event. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping it's going to snow and freeze and get foggy in the middle of the night, so I can send Roger out, because it's just right for him, that is.
Yes, and rain, of course, just right for you.
That's right, yes, you know, and we've got Sean and David to sort of impress the young girls and sign autographs and look all young and svelte and racing driverish.
That'll help a lot, won't it? Thank you very much, Jerry.
Pleasure, my dear fellow.
With cars in every class, General Motors dealer sport mean business. We talked to John Cleland about it.
John, as the foreigner among all these English chaps, you know, what do you reckon to your chances?
Oh, we'll win, no problem at all. With a team like this?
Have they been causing you trouble at all?
Yeah, just a bit. I get the blame for everything, whether I'm in the car or not. No matter what happens, it was me that did it, you know.
How very sensible.
Even if he flat spots the tyres, I get the blame for it.
Tony, flat spot a tyre?
Not like him, no, it's not.
No, not like him at all. What about you, Davina? Because I think, in fact, have you done the 24 hours before?
No, I haven't. The furthest I've been is 12 hours.
So this could be sort of a question of stamina, which I'm quite sure you'll have over both these chaps, won't you?
I think I should be exhausted after half an hour. In fact, I'm so tired now, I don't know how I'm going to wait till 9 o'clock to my stint.
They tell me, in fact, they are doing all the night driving. Is this right?
Well, more or less, yes.
Why is this? Has it something to do with the age of the drivers?
Yes, and the other two wear glasses. Dark glasses.
Tony, they've called you the old man of the team, is this true?
I don't know about old man of the team, but I like that Cleland over there, that Scottish git, comes here you're talking about, here's a Galitzin and Lanfranchi. I don't know that we're too English.
Well, you haven't got that funny accent, have you?
Well, I can't tell what he says. I just know that whatever he does wrong.
And do you think that's going to be so throughout the next 24 hours?
Well, that'll be all right, you see, we've got somebody to blame, so Divvy and I are happy.
Well, what more can you wish for? What do you reckon the chances, Tony? Opel going to have a good run?
Very, very good run. I think the cars are super and they're going to last. I hope.
And everybody hopes his car will last. Out goes Charles Morgan's Morgan, number 24. And there's Pete Hall's Rover, Andy Rouse at the wheel, the man who prepared it. And back on the grid, final adjustments under the bonnet before 24 hours of racing round Snetterton. Porsche won here last year, and nobody can ignore the threat of the well-tried German cars. The Bill Taylor, Paul Edwards, Barry Robinson, John Locke example here could very well be the car to beat. But the Rover teaming is magnificent, and the Colts are quick. Colin Blair and Tiffany Dale drive 25, but 22 has Andy McLennan, Ray Colcott, Dave Morgan, David DaCosta and Ian Jacobs aboard. Number 3 Porsche is Roger Eccles, Chris Ashmore, Martin Carroll and Francois Duret, while grandson of the founder of Morgan Motor Company, Charles Morgan, shares with Rob Wells, Malcolm Paul and Chris Olford. David Yates has persuaded David Purley out of retirement to share this Capri with himself and Alan Minshaw. And with just time to look under the bonnet of the Opel Monza, away goes the pace car on the pace lap with this huge field spread out behind. Throughout practice, everybody is well aware of the fact that the Porsches are the quickest, but speed is not always the essential ingredient in winning a long-distance race. The pace car pulls off, the race is on, and into the lead, straight away, number 7 Porsche of Bill Taylor. Taylor it is, who's followed by the Industrial Control Services Rover, Andy Rouse aboard, but through on the inside of him there, Colin Blower. And the field tightly bunched as they set off on lap 1. The Fiat Strada well down in the field as they now work their way onto the straight towards the S's. The Porsche leads. Colt in second place, Morgan in third, then Colt and alongside him the other Porsche. And Lanfranchi's Opel is up ahead there of the Rover of Pete Hall. Hard on their tail, Jess Yates with his Capri, and then the Jerry Marshall Opel, pressing Yates as they go away now back towards the pits. Up the slight incline towards the pits, and a huge bunch of cars sorting it out there for the places behind the leader. But it's the Porsche firmly in charge in spite of the battle that's going on behind. Bill Taylor brakes hard in number 7 into Rich's corner and accelerates through, followed by the Colt. On the straight, the Morgan is now up into second place, McLennan forced back to third. These 3 cars are running a tremendous pace, and the Rover is moving back up again once more ahead of the Opel Monzas. They're tending to fight among themselves. Eccles Porsche there, just ahead of number 1, the Jerry Marshall Roger Clark car, with tucked in behind, it's Tony Lanfranchi, and trying to get through. Lanfranchi indeed succeeds in outstripping his teammate, but no one can do anything about the lead that the Porsche is building up. Their reliability is legendary. Can it maintain this pace without trouble? The Rover going beautifully, prepared by Andy Rouse, and here comes the Opel Brigade with Jess Yates there with the Capri mixed up all with them. The Caterham Super 7s are going well, and certainly leading their class at the moment, getting in among the Capris, and there the Vauxhall Astra number 50 of John Llewellyn. The smaller Astra of James Kay, number 99, is also going very quickly. Involved in Lapri already, the leading Porsche is pulling further and further away from the opposition, while Rob Wells there, in the Morgan, holds off the Rover. Similar engines, but what a different style, and the Rover with Rouse goes through on the inside. Here comes the Opel Brigade. It's still Marshall, arguing all the time with Yates about that road and chasing after the Porsche ahead number 3. Rouse hustles the Rover along and locks the brake in his efforts to stay ahead of the Rob Wells Morgan. And listen as Tony Lanfranchi in the leading Opel goes down through the box. General Motors Dealer Sport are determined to do well in this event. and their cars are at the present time extremely well placed. Leading Porsche number 7, still putting distance between himself and the rest of the field. In and among the back markers, he's weaved already and is still making up ground all the time. The car handling beautifully, that lovely flat 6 beat as it goes through and past us. And here the Rover comes upon a Volkswagen Golf, attacks it and passes, shadowed as always by Rob Wells with the Morgan. Wells is through and past Andy Rouse for a moment or two. Will Rouse lock a brake this time? No is the answer, but he almost touches the tail as he holds on there to the Morgan and tries to out-accelerate him. Side by side, the two 635 BMWs, the black car of John Clark and the grey car of Albert Mirko, who had gearbox problems before the race started. They changed that gearbox late. Watch the flame out here on the Turbo Colt. Andy McLennan in a hurry. He hurls the car away, still ahead of one of the Morgans there. Albert Mirko has just found his way past the Panther Callista of Tony Stubbs. 2.8i Capri engine in the Callista, seen off by the 3.5 BMW as number 1 Marshall suffers from a locking near side brake. Through on the inside goes David Yates in an exciting but very tight moment. Number 3 Porsche, Roger Eccles, and here comes Marshall on the outside there, determined to get back ahead of the Capri. The Capri driver tries to get him back once more, but Marshall over the curb and on the limit is not sparing the car, as into the pits for a scheduled stop comes number 50 John Llewellyn. He's sharing with rally driver Russell Brooks and Steve McHale. Pit stops have already proved that the one serious problem that everybody is having at Snetterton is brakes. And while they fetch a tyre to put on to the front of the Vauxhall Astra, this particular car has a very unpleasant injection. Jerry Marshall's Opel is also in for a scheduled stop. Off comes a wheel, and we saw how hard those brakes were being used. But it's back into the race for the very competitive General Motors Dealer Sport 2 cars. Marshall there, still at the wheel after the first session. Porsche number 7 has maintained his lead as further pit stops take place. A check on the oil here on Marshall's car, and this is an unscheduled stop. Away goes Jerry, however, back into the race with a minimum of delay. We're waiting now for the Industrial Control Services Rover. He's in for a scheduled stop. Change of driver, tyres, brake pads and refuelling. This beautifully prepared car has been handled superbly by Rouse, who now hands over the wheel to Pete Hall. Meanwhile, already, work is at hand to remove the wheels while fuel is going in. Power tools are used to remove the nuts. Off comes a wheel, and immediately now it's a check on the brake pads. Out comes one pad, out comes the other, and in goes the replacement. Pete Hall waits patiently behind the wheel. Back on go the nuts. The wheel is tightened on. This team set a fine example to everyone on pit work. They really show what it's all about, as back into the race with a minimum delay goes Pete Hall. That's what it does to the tyres at Snetterton. Just work out how much it's going to cost during the course of the race. Out goes a sign to Tony Lanfranchi to bring the leading Opel Monza in. Lanfranchi has driven a fine first stint and the car is well placed. Let's watch their pit work now and compare it with that of the Industrial Control Services team. It's John Cleland to take over, a much smaller man than Lanfranchi, so the first thing that they have to do is to make quite sure that he's comfortable in the car. You'll notice that the driver who gets out straps in the driver taking over. The windscreen is cleaned, and while all this is going on, tyres are changed and refuelling takes place. Putting on those wheel nuts on the thread may seem a long and laboured process, but if you make a mistake, you in fact cross the thread, and that means changing the wheel stud itself, which takes a long time. Into gear, off the jacks, engine started, handbrake off, clutch in, and back into the race goes Opel number 4. The Fiat Strada comes in for a scheduled stop, the debut for this car, as the Porsche hustles past a Caterham Super 7 there in his efforts to maintain this lead. Number 99 is James Kay with the little Vauxhall Astra, and that car is leading its class and going exceptionally well. Here McLennan, with the Colt Starion Turbo, gets past Lanfranchi for a moment or two. He's busily trying to make up time after a pit stop, and there's last year's winning Porsche, entered by AFN Limited, which came to see what happened. As dusk falls, we get a beautiful sunset picture over Snetterton. On come the headlights, and the romance of long-distance racing at night is seen for British spectators on one of these very rare occasions. Into the pits has come John Cleland with the Opel. He's had a problem and arrived on 3 wheels. The hub has got to be changed together with new wheel nuts, and obviously there's some hard work to be done on that car. They clean the headlamps, and we asked John what happened.
John, before this all started, they said if anything went wrong, they were going to blame you. So what happened?
Well, about 5 laps previous to what happened, there'd been a thudding noise coming from the back of the car, or I thought it was the back of the car. And on the main straight, I weaved about, lifted my helmet up. I couldn't hear very much. Just in the middle of Coram and down at the end of the straight here, there was a thud, 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 thud. And I thought it was a shock absorber about me breaking up. But they'd given me a 40 laps till I was in for fuel, so I thought, well, if it's a shocker, we'll wait. It wasn't that serious. Then all of a sudden, coming through Coram, the back of the car just dipped and flicked round, and it shed a wheel. No idea why. I think the wheel nuts have just worked themselves loose with a vibration. That was all.
Well, you couldn't do much more, could you?
I'm afraid not. I had to push the car in, and it's quite a heavy car if you're having to push it for any distance.
Porridge in the morning, of course, plays its part in this.
That's definitely a help anyway. At least we're here, we're in the pits. Hopefully the boys can cure the car and we'll be back out in no time.
As General Motors deal with their problems, in comes the leading Porsche for a scheduled stop. They too have problems here with a wheel change, the nut being reluctant to go back on the wheel. But there's no doubt about it that the Porsche has built up a good lead and it's running reliably. And let's face it, that's what it's all about when it comes to 24 hours. Lamp covers are off, lights are on. 4 powerful lights winging their way through the night as number 7 Porsche goes out onto the circuit once more, maintaining its position at the head of the field. The discos, the fairground, and the fun of a 24-hour race will take its toll on the spectators' money. The night will take its toll on the cars. Lanfranchi's Opel is in trouble. Andrew Durden asks the questions.
Bill Cleland, the Monza is now with the bonnet up. What seems to be going on?
Well, we've got some bent valves at the moment. We don't think it's worthwhile really carrying on.
we'll change the head now. If it's only the head, we may just finish the car and qualify it as a finisher. Should we find there's some damage to the pistons when it did the valves, then we'll just sort of withdraw the car now. We've had a bad sort of a night up to now, and we've lost 2 Monzas. The only thing we have going for us at the minute is that the Astras are well placed. We're leading the class in 1300 with the Nightingale car, and John Llewellyn's car is pretty safe to win that class as well, we hope, unless we get problems like this.
So attention's on the 2 Astras now.
Some of us efforts and full attention now onto the Astras and try and see what we can do there, yeah.
Number 7 Porsche comes in for a scheduled stop. No problems at all as far as this car is concerned, and how everybody else wishes they could say the same thing. As the leading car goes out back into the race again, it's attention to the John Clark 635 BMW. This car has been basically reliable, but is showing signs of a gearbox problem. The promised rain has come down, and the track is slippery at dawn. Both the Opel Monzas have gone. David Sears was driving this one when a wheel came off and he went out into the barrier. Serious damage to the car, but none to the driver. The Morgan also is slowing in these very wet conditions. A slight stutter in the engine indicates that they're having a fuel problem. Meanwhile, the Andy Rouse Rover is going extremely well and scything through the traffic, which can be, of course, a tremendous problem in the early hours on a very wet road. Very sideways, on they go. Andy McLennan's Colt Starion shows damage to the front end where he was involved with the Fiat and the Jess Yates Capri. And Jean Llewellyn is leading his class in Astra number 50. Rally star Russell Brooks has gone extremely well in this car in these conditions, and it's now in the hands of Steve McHale. But the weather and the traffic strikes once again at General Motors Dealer Sport Team. Tangled up with a slower car, McHale rolls the Astra out of the race. Not the first time this has happened to Russell Brooks.
Yes, the first time, of course, it was the other driver in the team just went off at Riches and rolled. But this one was really, very, very unfortunate, very, very sad for the team. Steve McHale was driving and he was going incredibly well. We were leading the class and taking a lot of time off our nearest contender in the class, the VW Sirocco. And he caught up a slower car, and I think the driver panicked a bit in the chicane here, lost it, ran into the side of him and pushed the Astra into the barrier, and that was the end of the race for us.
Has this been a problem throughout the race, drivers with perhaps not the sort of experience that you'd like to see in this sort of event?
It's inevitably going to be a problem. You've got 36 cars and there aren't enough of the top drivers to go around for all the cars, and you're going to get inexperienced drivers as the second, third or fourth member of the team. It is a big problem, but I can't see any way around it. I mean, the very nature of the event would be destroyed if you limited it to only professional drivers.
Well, Russell Brooks's views are an accident that saw them out of the race. The British Telecom Capri, in the hands of sponsor of the event Roger Williams, is going well, as is now the Panther Callista after some early delays. But no one has got near number 7 Porsche. Without a doubt, this car has run like clockwork all the way through. As Barry Robinson brings it into the pits for a scheduled stop, we ask Lanfranchi what happened to the Opel.
It got broken. We had a lady driver who decided to put it in the wrong gear.
And the net result?
About 6 holed pistons, I think. Well, a lot of vent valves.
It was a shame, actually, because the car was going very well. Do you think you'd have been right up there?
I'm quite sure we were doing exactly what we wanted to do. We were in second place after 3 hours. We were going to do them in nice, steady stints, 3-hour stints. It's unfortunate, actually, because Stevie doesn't make many mistakes, and she just got it wrong, and that was that.
When you actually do a race like this, had you sort of settled on a lap time that you wanted the car to do, or was it a question of go out there and drive what was comfortable for you?
Basically what was comfortable. We knew what we had to do, and that's what the car was doing without, giving it any stick or anything. It was going very well.
Only one of the General Motors entries, therefore, is doing anything like what was expected of it. And we asked Melvin Hodgson about his race.
Well, Melvin, you look as if you're enjoying the Sunday sunshine.
Yes, I thought I'd get 10 minutes in the sun before I get back into the car. It's a beautiful morning this morning, fantastic.
It's not been a beautiful morning as far as GM Dealer Sport are concerned. We're now down to one car.
Yes, it's very sad actually. Puts a bit of pressure on us now. I feel, although we've got an extensive lead, we're the only GM car that's running, so I think our intention now is just to sort of poodle around and hopefully get to the finish and win our class.
Have you enjoyed the experience?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Really, really enjoyed it.
And you'll come back next year?
Yes, I'd like to get the offer anyway. I think that if I can't get back with an offer, I might have to pay my way back into this.
Well, they do say that the sun shines on the righteous. Let's hope it works out for you.
Thank you.
And it does work out as far as the little Vauxhall Astra is concerned. The BMW here, in the final stages of the race, gets very sideways on a very slippery Snetterton. And the Astra comes along as well and also samples the outside of the circuit in his efforts to maintain this long and happy lead that he's got. The flag comes out at the end of the Willhire 24-hour race at Snetterton. A win for Porsche, with Rover in second place, and some consolation for General Motors Dealer Sport when the Troop Nightingale Hodgson James K Astra wins its class. And so on to the presentations of the awards. Once again, the Willhire 24-hour race has proved to be tremendously popular with spectators and drivers alike. It's growing in stature every year. A Porsche victory then in the 1984 Willhire 24-hour race. But you can be sure that General Motors will be back again to try to redress the balance next year.